Welcome to the Socket podcast, everyone. Today, I'm rejoined by my friend Erica Lopez. Erica and I go back a number of years. We met through my practice. We've been co-hosts on the Moms Network TV show together, and now we work together through Go Girl Communications, which is the content company that helps me with the Branch Moms newsletter. So welcome, Erica.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Eric and I decided we were going to tape another podcast, and we were kind of contemplating what our topic would be. And Erica threw out there that when she had listened to our first podcast that was taped 7 or 8 months ago or something like that, that
Mhm.
she was talking about she wasn't really sure what her next journey in life would be. She had been a primary stay-at-home mom, and she was looking to get back in the workforce, but wasn't sure what she was going to do. And we thought this would be a great topic to discuss when you're not sure of your next step and how you can make those decisions, and trying to help everyone just take a little pressure off, that it doesn't have to be kind of this all or nothing. You go from stay-at-home mom to work 40 hours a week. There can be
Mhm.
kind of a blend or something different. So Erica, can you share kind of where you were 7, 8 months ago, and then how you got to where you are today?
Sure. So I was a high school English teacher in my pre-kids life. When we had my daughter, we moved from the city to the suburbs, and then that's when I became a primarily stay-at-home mom. I did a direct sales business. I was involved with the school, as part of home and school, Girl Scout troop leader, like that involved mama. That was kind of my role. And my husband has his own business, so he works a lot of hours. We had a second child, and then I taped the podcast with you in the summer, and he was going to be going into kindergarten. And so it's interesting. It's sort of that time period where you think, okay, like now they're heading into school, both going to be full time. How many jobs are there that you can really just work 10 to 1? That's really all I need to do, because you have to drop them off and I still want to be involved. And so I didn't know what was going to be next. A mutual friend of ours, Patty Mingland, runs Go Girl Communications. And with my English background, I could see it's one of those things I secretly manifested, because it was about a year ago. I thought, gosh, she is just getting so busy. I see that she's getting overwhelmed. She needs help. She needs some
Yep.
help. And it should be me, but I'm just not ready yet. And then the pandemic hit, and I became full-time, teacher,
Everything.
assistant, and at-home mom. But sometimes timing doesn't always work out perfectly, and you still need to take advantage of opportunities when they come your way, because they're meant to be. So I
Yep.
took on a role working part-time to help Patty with Go Girl Communications. We've since brought on another friend of mine, Courtney Reese, who is handling our social media. And we have a wonderful little team, and I'm sort of rocking and rolling and back in the groove of being part of a really special thing, and a really special thing with ladies, which I love. Today's
Yeah.
the first day. I don't know when this will air, but today we're taping on March 1st. So it's the first day of Women's History Month. So
Yeah.
go girl.
Well, I remember seeing Patty. I think she sent a text to our showgirl group, which our showgirls is all the women that are co-hosts on the Moms Network. And she said, all right, I need to hire someone part-time. And she sent, and I didn't know that you had been thinking about this already, but I saw your response back like, actually, I think it might be me. I think I might be able to help you. And I remember I looked at the communication. I was like, woohoo, that's awesome. I mean, just, it was, it was such an awesome fit. And I think the skill set that you have complements the skill set that Patty has. I look at my practice, and I like to think big picture, and, we've got to do this. We're going to bring on this service. We need to hire a new person, right? I think kind of in that kind of larger, um, 30,000 feet view of
Yeah.
and Allison is the detail person. And
Mhm.
Caitlin, I just brought another girl, Caitlin, on, who's like a mini Allison.
Yeah.
And so between the two of them right now, all of any of the Excel stuff or tracking patient care or doing the advertising that we do for the branch and setting that up and get all of the details that I work on at this level, they're working on at that detailed level. And I couldn't do what I do without them. There's no way. I honestly don't even know how to use Excel. I've never, ever once used Excel other than to look at a form.
Yeah.
Jason was like, I could teach you. I'm like, nah, I don't think so. I'm 47. I've come this far. I think I'll just continue to delegate those responsibilities.
Different brains work differently. And I'm definitely a verbal person. So it was funny. My husband's all finance. And so when we were planning our wedding, we both came up with a document and he had the budget and I had notes. And to see the difference between the two docs that we created, mine were paragraph, labels, bullet points, and paragraphs. And
Yep.
he's straight into Excel, just numbers only. And he always thinks it's so funny how I approach organizing something, and it's just completely different than his. So everybody has their own process, but I would agree that Patty is, she's the CEO just as you are. It's your baby. This is your, opportunity to experiment and to succeed and come up with all these ideas. But sometimes you just need, a beginning building block, like,
yeah,
need a password before we can create this amazing thing, or
right. Passwords. I swear passwords are like my nemesis.
Oh yeah.
Anything you get into, it's like, and then it puts you into a different program and it's like, oh, just type in your password. You're like, I know. Passwords. I hate passwords.
I want us to be in the future where we can just take our fingerprints because over it.
I think it'll obviously get there. But then there's an issue like, okay, well, Allison needs that login.
Oh yeah,
Caitlin needs that login, right? Jason's going to need that login for certain things. So I'm like, I can't superimpose my my fingerprint over there.
That would be a breach of something. Yeah.
Well, and to go back, you had mentioned that you really didn't exactly know what your path was even early on.
Yeah, no, I didn't. So in high school, I've always been a good student. I did as I was told. I got good grades. I loved music and theater. But for some reason, I just never saw it as a viable option to pursue. Part of me saw that I would be away from a potential future family. When you're performing, you're gone, for 8 shows a week, you're traveling. And even at the age of 17, which is when I graduated high school, I knew, I don't know about that. So all I knew was I'm going to college. I got out. DePaul was the first brochure that came. This diverse group of people they look great. Let's join them. And I had gone to Catholic school my whole life, so it made sense. It was a natural progression. And I liked the idea of being in the city. And I looked at the list of majors and I thought, nope. What's communications? Oh, yeah. My highest scores are in English and language arts. Let's do that. I can read, I can talk. And I did. And those 4 years went by like that. And I did internships in casting, actually, at a casting company in Chicago, human resources and staffing. And that's sort of where I started. And then that led me to training. So I would do some corporate training. And then ultimately I realized I was teaching, right? I'm standing in front of a group and I'm explaining things. And my mom is a teacher, but my mom just taught junior high for a while, but Catholic school. So it's K-8 also. And sometimes you just don't want to do, what your mom did.
Your mom did,
my mom wore like pumpkin sweaters and apple earrings. And I am so cool. And I want a briefcase and I want my casual corner suit and not a teacher. But ultimately I wasn't happy with what I was doing. So I quit and I started substitute teaching at all different levels because you just need a bachelor's for that. And learned that high school is where I want to be. I couldn't do the younger ones. And then I entered a program that was just a year and a half to get my master's in teaching. And then I taught high school. So that was my journey.
Well, and I think there's so much pressure, no matter what age you are, there's so much pressure to have your life figured out, right? Mm-hmm. To have the next step already mapped out. And I know I talk to, either my kids or friends' kids that are in that later high school years. And if you're at, let's say you're at a party and there are younger kids there, they're high school kids there. If you pay attention, probably four people are going to ask them in an hour, oh, well, what are you going to do? Do you know what college you want to go to? Right.
Yeah.
And I think about the pressure that's put on these young kids these days to know exactly what they're supposed to do with their lives. And that just seems insane to me. It really just doesn't. I know there's some people that magically have it figured out. I look at myself. When I graduated at 17 as well. I was, had an August birthday, and I went to school. I had hurt my back and I was kind of, partially debilitated. I'd kind of bend over and fall to the ground and couldn't get back up. So by the time I was starting college, I was worried that at some point I'd be in a wheelchair. So I decided I was going to be a therapist because I always liked working with people. I wanted to help people. And so that's how I started my college career.
Physical therapist?
No, like a counselor.
Oh, counselor. Okay.
Yeah, because I figured I can do that from a wheelchair. I just didn't know what my future held. And then when I started getting adjusted and it made such a big difference, I immediately changed to chiropractic. I was like, oh, never mind. This is what I want to do. And I knew that my future was much brighter because my back was so much better. And at 18 and a half, I knew what I wanted to do. And so I was kind of fast tracked. I didn't take any extra courses than what I needed. I was able to get all the prerequisites to get into chiropractic school. I got my bachelor's and my doctorate degree from chiropractic school, and I graduated at 24 as a doctor. And that's just not normal. That just happened to be my path. I've certainly had to navigate some choices as I, took over the branch 10 years ago. It's almost 10 years. March of 2011 is when I took it over. It'll be a decade. It's crazy. But I had to make the decision. Did I want to take that over? Right. I had to make a decision. Am I going to launch this podcast? So I've had different variations of that, but I kind of always had that core of what my career was going to be locked down. So I know how many people struggle with that. And again, I see the pressure put on people to have that like figured out.
Right.
And the other thing, a little bit of my soapbox, is not everyone should be going away to a 4-year school that's, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year or more. If you don't have any idea what you're going to do, the thought to go spend that much money and it, for most cases, take on these gigantic student loans right from the get-go, that's a tough thing to sell me on right away. What are your thoughts on that? You were in education, right? What are your thoughts on all kids going to college?
I grew up in an environment where everyone went to college. So then I went from that environment. So it wasn't a question. My mom always tells the joke of her dad, my grandfather, telling her in kindergarten, you're going to college. It was obviously a bigger deal back then as well. Yeah. And she said, I was 4 or 5 years old going, I'm going to college, and she didn't know what that meant. So there was never a question. It wasn't even an option. When I taught in a demographic where most of the kids wanted to go to college. They would absolutely be first generation. Yeah. And it was sometimes not an option for them. Finances, support, legal status, a lot of different reasons. Yeah. Because of that, I saw the desire, the beyond the burning desire to want that opportunity to go to a school to get more education. Yeah. So for me, education is never going to be a waste. I had someone tell me once a few years back when I was, just to stay at home mom. That's the term, right? Just to stay at home mom. And he said something like, oh, a master's in teaching. He goes, you have your master's degree? I said, yeah. And he goes, that's a waste. And to me, especially being an educator and seeing how badly some kids want it, I will never consider it a waste. And I've also had friends say it's just a piece of paper. You need it to get this job. That kind of shows some privilege. It's just a piece of paper to you, but to others, that is a lifeline. That is a ticket out of a situation.
Yeah.
So do I think every kid needs to go to a 4-year college to spend? No, absolutely not. I think people who are in trades are so valuable that I
Yeah.
mean, do you know how to change, the electricity in your home? Do you know how, no, I mean, these are skilled professionals. But I do think you need to do something.
Yeah.
And I think while you're figuring it out, I think these community colleges are a great option because you can take classes without totally breaking the bank, but you're still doing something. Because I fear if you don't, unless you're taking a gap year and you're traveling Europe or something, if you're gonna just continue your job at McDonald's, I fear that you're just never going to get out of that cycle. So I think just taking some classes to figure it out is a great option. Yeah.
And I totally agree. I didn't mean that I thought that people shouldn't go to college at all. I think that I, I get, and this is privilege, right? Because most of the people that I'm in relationship with, the schools they're talking about are these super fancy schools with
Right.
these super expensive price tags. So I guess for me, what I mean is that route of that expensive school. But I really like what you just said, because I've never actively been around a lot of people that don't have that opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. So that when you started talking, I was like, oh, good God, Cathy, right? Sometimes you just don't know what you don't know.
Mhm.
And so I can feel that when you say that desire of I want to do this. I want to achieve this. And I'm coming from a place that if I don't, I get sucked into some pretty bad things.
Yeah.
Um, I guess what I meant was I look at my second son, Nick, and he does okay in school. You know, he does his work. He gets A's, B's, couple C's here and there. But he doesn't crave doing like a professional career. He doesn't want
Mhm.
to be an accountant. He's not going to be a doctor. He's not going to be a lawyer. He doesn't want to be an IT guy. But he loves martial arts. And so one day we were having a conversation and I said, I said, you don't have to like go away to a 4-year school. You could take business classes at COD and we could ultimately help you kind of start your own business, buy a martial arts studio. You could actually run one.
Mhm.
And he was, because he's lived in a middle upper class area, it's always been, well, then you go to college, right? Well,
Right.
then you go to college.
Mhm.
And the next day he came to me and he said, so I've been thinking about what you said, and do you mean that my career could be something I love?
Oh.
And I just thought, yeah, it can,
And it should.
and so I think, I mean, COD, I'm a huge proponent of it. Christopher's there now. Christopher is going to become a chiropractor. So he has to get a bachelor's, he has to get a doctorate. But the first year, he's taking like 45 credits at COD to get his
Yeah.
prerequisites before transferring into the bachelor program at Palmer. And then he'll eventually transfer into the DC program. But do you know how much money we're saving to take
Yeah.
45? That's a year and a half of college. I think that's going to cost us like $7,000 or $8,000 total.
Mhm.
And he's living at home. So I don't know how we got on this topic, but I just am such a proponent for.
It's paths. There's no one formula for everyone.
Yeah.
And same in everything. I mean, we can apply that to all sorts of different situations. And the same goes for education and career. You
Yeah.
take some risks, some things work out, some things don't. You're always going to stick to who you are as a person and where your talents lie. I mean, I never had a stint in, being a physicist or anything. I never, you know, was a mathematician. I've never been in finance. There's a reason for that. I know what my strengths are.
Yep.
And I also know that if you know what your strengths are and you get in a good situation, you'll figure it out. Right. And,
Absolutely. I
some,
and but we're also very fortunate to be in families that have been supportive, right? From a really
right.
little age. I mean, I was always told by my mom and dad, you can do whatever you want. Like I never felt any part of um feeling like, because I'm a woman, right? Because I'm a woman, I can't do this, that, or the other. And I talk to women who are in the corporate world, and oh my goodness, I mean, the stuff that still happens there just shocks me. And
Yeah.
the treatment of women, the treatment of, how are we Are we lifting women up into leadership roles or still putting them in like secretary roles?
Right.
And it just, I don't know, some of it still floors me. And because I've always owned my own businesses, I've never had to break through anything because I created it for myself. And because I was always told, you can do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any fear of being like, oh, I know I'm a woman. But when I went to apply for being on the Chamber of Commerce, Naval Area Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, I had my interview with, I think, 3 or 4 people. And one of them was a man named Kevin Harris, who worked at BP at the time. Awesome, awesome, awesome guy. He gave a talk at our gala. It was called Bounce. And it was, I think it was shortly after 2007, 2008. And the
Mm-hmm.
whole thing was, now we're going to bounce, right? We're always going to fall, but we got to bounce back up. And his speech was, I don't really remember everything he said, but I just remember thinking, I could listen to this man talk for 17 hours. Anyway, he said, so what were your goals be of being on the board, and where do you see yourself going? Would you be involved in leadership? Or I was like, I'd like to be chairman of the board. And he looked at me, he was like, really? Okay. And I don't know, it was something I always wanted to do. And then when I got to the place where I interviewed, it was me and 2 other guys that interviewed for the position, and I got it. And it was one of the scariest experiences and the best experiences, because I had to be up in front of 500 people in tuxes and gowns giving a keynote speech. And it
Mm-hmm.
really pushed me out of my comfort zone quite a bit. And I will be forever grateful of the experience, but I also, thank God I don't have to do it anymore. But
Yeah.
it's interesting when you kind of follow these different wavelengths of different parts of your career, where they can lead to, if you are open to it, if you have the confidence to move forward in it, if
Sure.
you just like yourself, right? You didn't know how things would turn out with Patty. You didn't know how, but you're like, raise my hand, like I could do this, you
Right.
know? So talk about that experience from the point of, all right, I'm primarily a stay-at-home mom, but now I'm going to transition into working. What have been some of the best parts of that, and what have been some of the struggles with that?
Honestly, it'd be all benefits if my children were in full-time programs. And I hope
Sure.
that through audio, the listeners can hear the frustration in the tone of my voice. No, safety first. So I'll put that
Yeah.
out there. However, it has been officially a year next week. I think it was March 16th. And my youngest is in kindergarten. My oldest is in 3rd grade. She's pretty much self-sufficient. I don't check on her. She's a great student. She's good. She's done. My little guy is in kindergarten, so there has to be a lot of hand holding. And he's an older kindergartner, so a lot of things are easy. So he's frustrated. He's bored. He's on
Yeah.
Zoom for 6 hours a day. It's a struggle. So that was a tangent, but my point is, if they were in school, this is filling me up exactly how I needed to be filled up.
Yeah.
So I feel good about this. I mean, I taught English, so I taught students how to technical write, and I love being able to do it. I love organizing Patty's grandiose ideas, and I am definitely just detail oriented. So she'll come up with these great ideas, and it's like, okay, but then how do we actually execute them? And so it's really been cool is I've been with her for 6 months, and these great ideas in the beginning that we were just spitballing, how about this, how about this, how about this, they're happening. They're just actually happening. So in the beginning I said, so you had a newsletter, but it hasn't been written in a year. Can we resurrect that? And here it is, resurrected. Or let's pump up social media. Have you ever thought about? And so just all these ideas, actually seeing them happen. The next is offering courses for people to purchase off of the website. So if they aren't able to work with us as a client, on a weekly or monthly basis, they can just purchase a course on whatever it is they need help with: brand strategy, content writing, social media. So that's exciting.
That's awesome.
Trickling. Yeah. We just
Yeah.
put the first one up on the site, and that's only in 6 months. So it's been really fun to watch it grow, even just in this short amount of time. So the potential is exciting. So it's been good. I mean, it's just, a lot of people are working from home right now. I am a people person, so I'm just missing being able to be physically next to someone, even if you're not talking, you're
Yeah.
just in the same room. I love that energy. So I look forward to just sitting at a, coffee shop and working next to each other, so that not every question I have about something new has to be a Zoom or a phone
Right.
call. We could just be there, even if it's just once a week or something.
Yeah.
But it's been great. It's a learning curve for me, mostly with programs. I mean, I never had to use certain content writing programs. So,
Sure.
and you just figure it out. And I think just being at my age, and you've had the babies and all that, and their confidence comes with that. If I was
Yeah.
doing this at 24, I don't know though. My 24-year-olds today are pretty confident. I wasn't at 24. But now it's kind of like, I got this. I got it.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Well, we just hired Caitlin on, and she's around 24. And I didn't really have a full-time job for her. She graduated college, and she'd worked for me for 5 or 6 years at the practice. And I knew she has great drive. She has great vision. She has great accountability. She is dependable. She is organized. And I think I got to a place where I'm like, you know what? Someone else is going to snatch her up, right? Like someone else is going to offer her a job. And
Mhm.
so I looked between the practice and the branch and now Socket. I was like, all right, how can I budget in for her to have a full-time job? Because she needs a full-time job. And at the end of the day, I decided that I was going to just pull the trigger and hire her, because I knew her value. And wow, she has just knocked it out of the park. I mean, for the social media on Socket, you should see our numbers. Like, I sent her a screenshot of how much our engagement's gone up, how much our likes, how many members we have, or people that are following us. And on both Facebook and Instagram, what she's done has been so tremendous. And while that doesn't necessarily translate into revenue right at this moment, when I get to my courses, right, which will be something that I'll be putting out there in the next year, building that brand and what Socket means, what am I trying to communicate? She has that. And so I brought her into a meeting of my graphic designers. I have all of the graphic design elements, meaning I've got all the colors of the brand, the logos, the backgrounds for memes and Socket tips and things like that. And so we got Adobe Illustrator, which Caitlin had never used before. So Stacy, my graphic designer from Click Creative, came in to help train her so that, okay, here are all the pieces of the puzzle. Let's download Illustrator, and here's how you can change this or do that. And Stacy just looks at me like within 5 minutes, she's like, oh, this girl's good. Like, she would just tell her one thing, and then Caitlin, all right, well, let me do it. Oh, I do this, and then I click here, right? She doesn't have any fear of those programs.
Right. Well, that's some age too, because
Yeah.
they grew up with it. I mean, it's unreal what what these kids, I mean, gosh, I'm only in my 40s, but it's a difference. We didn't grow up with it. It's not natural to
Yeah.
us, but it is. I always tell the story about, they had like a fighter jet plane, and they brought in all of these MBAs, and then they brought in a group of 6-year-olds, and they timed them to see how long it took them to figure out how to fly this super complicated plane. And the MBAs are trying to read the manual and they're all figuring it out. And the 6-year-olds were like, got it. I mean, they got it like that.
No way.
Yeah, because it's just, as much as we say, technology's awful and blah, blah, blah. I mean, they just get it. I mean, they're doing so much now because they're all on Zoom.
Yeah.
That they're working with programs at a younger age than they typically would, but they're just able to figure it out so quickly.
Yeah.
That's why my daughter's down there helping my son, because I mean, if he had trouble, she's more likely to help him than I am.
Right. I know I'll get stuck on something on a computer. I'm like, Christopher, I'm like, can you help me? How do I make this smaller? And he'll come over and be like, click, click, click. Oh, you just press this and then that, and then you copy and paste. And I'm like,
yeah.
oh, Gosh, that gives me
When
anxiety.
you do learn something, aren't you so excited? I literally,
Oh,
I clap at myself at the screen.
yeah.
Yay,
Well, it was fun.
I did it.
And sometimes you don't give yourself enough credit for the growth. I remember having a conversation, it was about 2 months ago. Patty had I think a client or someone that was looking to start a podcast. And so she got me in touch with this other woman and we did a Zoom meeting. Just, I'm like, here, I'll just share kind of what I learned. It's not that much, but I'll kind of go through it. And I was like, all right. So then I tape on Zoom and then I record to my computer and then I download it and then I upload it to YouTube and then I do this. And then I have an editing person that helps edit my intro and outro that I got on Fiverr. And then she uploads it to Buzzsprout and then it feeds out to all the different podcasts. And then we do promote it online. And she looked at me and she was like, how can you say that isn't a lot? For me, because my ultimate goal was to tape on my own camera and in my studio and have online courses, I assumed I'd have all those done at this point. And I don't. But it's amazing how much I had to learn to get to here. And just because that end goal isn't done yet doesn't mean that what I've gone through and all the things that I've learned, I'd never heard of any of those programs. I didn't know how to use Zoom, when the pandemic started. So I think there is a moment that we can all have to be like, wow, I've come a long way,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which I'm sure you feel in your role now, like, and to help build something. And when something comes to fruition, for you to know, I was part of that. I
Mm-hmm.
might have even, I might have even made that suggestion,
Yeah.
that's gotta feel really good to you.
It's cool. Yeah, no, it's really, really nice. And it's nice to do it with someone that you genuinely like as a
Yeah.
person. And Courtney as well. The three of us have this similar set of values and we view the world in a similar way. And that really helps because it's just the three of us.
Yeah.
And it's neat because we just work well together and we can sort of read each other's minds. And I'm the one who typically corresponds with the clients. And so now I'm at the point where I can predict what Patty's answer or what Courtney's answer is going to be. So that's neat because I'm learning because I'm not a social media expert by any means or person, but I can learn and, I can listen.
Yeah.
I just can't execute the way she does, but that's why she's there.
Yeah, right. That's why you have different people doing different things. And like you said, that then kind of blends over into your skill set, right? Once you see Courtney or Patty do a couple of things a couple of times, you're like, oh, okay, well, that doesn't seem that scary. I mean, some
Right.
people have an artistic lens that there's no way to recreate.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's I look at some of the socket tips that Caitlin is putting together. Now I write them all. We have other quotes from other people that we use as well, but she's putting together all of the visuals for it. And
Yeah.
every once in a while, like I'll look at my phone and a notification will come up like Socket just posted, and I'm like, I wonder what we posted today. And so then it pops up and I'll send Caitlin a screenshot. I'm like, this is amazing. Like I'm sure I could find it if I had time and I gave it some effort, but for her, she just has an eye for the visuals, where you put things, how deep, how like thick the font is, things
Right.
that I don't know, I just don't really have time to mess around with. And so I know from my perspective, which is Patty's perspective, is it's so awesome to have great people that you can count on, because you can't, as you grow a business, you can't do it by yourself. And many business owners try, because it's scary to hire someone. It's scary to know that you have, money going out the door if you don't have, gazillions of dollars coming in every month, or if you have a slow month or anything like that. So it's a leap of faith. And I know specifically from Patty, every once in a while I'll get a text or an email from her like, oh my gosh, thank God for Erica. She just did this, or this. And so she speaks so highly of you, and bringing Courtney in has been incredible. And so I just, knowing from Patty very specifically, she just really values you and is thankful that you raised your hand.
Oh, that is so sweet. That's so sweet. Yeah. And I think the first couple weeks were just convincing her it was okay to grow.
Yeah.
I told my husband, I said, I think my job for the first month is just going to be cheerleader. Like, that's it. Like, you're amazing. You have
Yeah.
all the clients. You have goals. You're doing wonderful things. You can do it.
You can do it.
Yay. You know, and getting her, and it's funny because I listen to my husband and sometimes I'll hear him say like, oh, it's just easier to do it myself than assign it to someone else and explain it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't want her to feel that way. You know, I want it to be, you know, you're going to naturally feel that way after being on your own for 10 years.
Yep.
You know, we're starting to realize what things can be let go of and what things I just don't have the answers to. And that's
Sure.
okay too. But we're getting there. Just a little bit of and it's always going to take some more time in the beginning when there's change because there's a learning curve. But on the other side of that curve is momentum and growth, and it's just all positive.
Yeah. I know what you just said about being a cheerleader. I have a new doctor that started on the at the office, Dr. Christine. And Dr. Claire had to move because she just had a baby. She needs to be closer to her family. And so she's going to live 5 minutes from her parents who are watching her baby, and then 5 minutes from the practice that she's working at now. So it's awesome. You know, it was wonderful to have her at the office. But right at the timing where she was going on maternity leave, Dr. Christine reached out to me literally the day that Claire almost went into labor. It was such a coincidence. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, Claire's going to have a baby and we're so busy right now. And I got home and I had a Facebook message from Dr. Christine saying, hi, I'm in Naperville. You know, I'm looking for a job. I know you already have doctors, but I have a ton of friends that know you and some patients that are on my block that say you have a great practice. Wasn't sure if you had anything available or you knew of someone. So anyway, she quickly came on to cover Dr. Claire's maternity leave. And then Claire, a month after having the baby, came to me and said, I have to leave. I'm so sorry. But what was so nice is that Christine was going to be available to come on full time. And it was interesting to see the practice through her eyes. I've never had a doctor that had this unique set of experiences. Christine's husband worked for Amazon, so they've been moved around so many times. So she's worked at like 6 or 7 chiropractic offices, and then she's done fill-in work for another 6. So there's 12 practices that she's gotten to see. How do they work? What is their practice management style? What is their, you know, treatment plan style? What is their communication style? What's their advertising? You know, what do they do to bring in new patients? So she came to me and said, you know, after being at your practice for a little while, I have some insights and I wasn't sure if you'd be open to getting together for lunch for me to share them with you. I was like, oh my goodness, that's awesome, right? Because I've been head down in my practice for 22 years, right? And sometimes you don't see what you don't know, what you don't. And so we met and she's like, I really hope you don't take offense at this. And I was like, well, I rarely take offense. I know you're coming, whatever you're going to say with a kind heart and you're trying to be a cheerleader, right? And she said, most of the practices that I've worked in, they work their asses off to try to get new patients to walk in that door. They do screenings, they do specials, they do $29, you know, come in for free. And she said that is the primary focus of most of the practices is how are we going to get new patients to walk in the door? She said, Cathy, at your practice, they just walk in the door without you even trying. And she's like, not that you haven't tried. She's like, for 22 years, you've built a name in your community. You run the Branch Moms community. You've volunteered your time. You've sat on boards. You've put the work in. But she goes, I don't know if you know that you don't now have to really work as hard to get those new patients to come in the door. But once they come in the door, there's a couple of systems that are breaking down that I see because I saw how intact the other systems were at the other practices, because every patient that walked in that door, they didn't know when another patient was going to come in the door. Now, some of that lends to signing contracts and forcing people into long-term care, and I'll never do that. But she's like, if you just tighten up a couple of things and have this follow-up or, you know, this chat with a patient about X, Y, or Z. And she gave some fantastic thought processes that we've slowly been putting into the practice. And it takes a lot because we're kind of redoing every system from the beginning, but it's been so valuable, I'm not sure. It's been so valuable for me to see my own practice through the eyes of someone that has seen so many practices and
Mhm.
understand my strengths and weaknesses, and then be open to the fact of saying, okay, we're going to work on these weaknesses. We're never going to swing the pendulum over to some high pressure sales chiropractic company, because it's never going to work for me. But it's been amazing to see the growth already since she's come back on full time, which is
Great.
great.
That's great. And in my case, it was the opposite. I had no experience. So you're going through that lens because
Yeah,
I mean, no experience in content marketing, but a life experience in other jobs. And so you can look at a process and go, well, that doesn't seem logical. So I always used to say,
mhm.
what seems logical? That doesn't make sense to me. Like you have like 3 different programs and you're entering the same information. Can we just use one? Why do we have 3?
Can we
So
consolidate a little bit?
sometimes not knowing anything and coming into something can be beneficial too, because
Right,
you're not in it, it's just
right.
fresh eyes, which is
You
helpful.
were, you could look at Patty and be like, does that make sense to do X, Y, and Z all at the same time? And she's probably like, no, it's not. I could hear Patty
Yeah.
in my head.
Yes,
No, that's
exactly.
why I need you.
No, yeah, you're right. You mean I shouldn't have to pay for that app anymore? No, you shouldn't.
No. Every once in a while, I get charged, talking about apps, I get charged by something. And I think, oh, I need to go and undo that. Like I just got charged for my yearly subscription to Calm, which is a meditative app,
Oh
meditation
yeah, I've
app.
heard of that.
Yeah, but I use Breathe. I don't even have Calm on my phone. So it was like $60 that came through. I'm like, crap. I'm like, where is this coming
Oh
from?
no.
And then you've got to figure out, which normally involves a password, right?
Right,
I'm going to
right.
have to figure out my Calm
Circle
password.
back.
And then what email did I use? Because I have a couple of emails that I use.
Mhm.
Like, so anyway, that's off topic. But so what would be a couple of pieces of advice that you would have for someone that finds themselves in your shoes, whether it's someone that chose to be a stay-at-home mom for a period of time and wants to get back in the workforce, or even someone that's right out of college, or working at a job that they know is not their career or what they want to do long term? What would be a couple of things that you would say might be helpful for them?
I think I would preface it by saying it depends on your financial situation and your situation at home,
Yeah.
because I was in a position that I could be patient. I could make choices. Not everyone has that. Same goes for college students. There is not always a choice. But so that aside, if the world is your oyster, if you have the choice, I would just say ride the wave, and be open your eyes, open your ears, make connections, authentic connections. I mean, Patty and Go Girl came to be because of my connection to you. Plain and simple.
Yep.
You didn't say, oh, I have this girl. No, it was nothing like that. It was a friendship for years. And so everything became organic. But if you're closed off to new relationships, if you're closed off to new opportunities, new different kinds of people, well, then that opportunity is not gonna, come to you.
That's a
Um,
good point.
it's a little bit of luck, but it's also positioning yourself to receive that luck, when it comes to you. As
Yeah.
far as a young person, I would just stress a lot less. I mean, look, if you're a good person and you're a hard worker, good things will come. Maybe
Yeah.
not right away. And it's certainly not going to be a steady slope up, because that's not life. Life is up and
No.
down and twists and turns and all over the place. We all know that. But if you keep gosh, do I have little kids? I was just going to say, do the next right thing. That's in Frozen 2. You have no idea what I'm talking to, but some people listening might. If you just do the next right thing and you keep working hard and you keep, working on yourself, then you're going to be okay. And it's okay to be in a program and then make a complete pivot.
Yeah.
It's it's going to be all right. You might have a little bit more debt because you might go an extra year. But that's okay too.
Yeah.
Everything is not meant to be, the end of the world. I think what's really hard is for kids who know that this is what they want and it might just not work out for one reason or another. And then that worries me, because then there's that devastation of like, everyone in my family was a lawyer and I can't pass the bar.
For sure.
But maybe they do something phenomenal, in the legal field, and they just didn't need the bar for that. I mean, you can't let anything else define you. You just gotta make your own path and allow mistakes to happen. And I don't think anything is a mistake. I think everything teaches you something, and it just prepares you for the next step, whatever it might be.
Well, I like that. I think that's great words to live by. And my personal motto, since I think I was like 17 or 18, was make luck happen. Right. Sometimes throughout my career, people have been like, God, you're so lucky. And I think, and I have worked really, really, really hard to get this lucky. Right. And if by lucky you mean going through the ups and downs of owning a business and almost losing it and losing my home and, all kinds of things and those ups and downs in between, I don't know if they would have called me all that lucky back then. It's just, it's just a process. And you kind of have to, like you said, kind of go with the flow and keep taking steps forward, and even if you're in a job that isn't going to be a lifetime career, maybe you're in a job that that you really should be in a higher job, still do it with all of your, with all of your strength, right? I have a friend of mine who stayed at home with kids for 13 years, and she went back as an office manager for a large corporation, and she literally was like stocking soda and taking messages. And she would talk to people, and she was building relationships, and she did this job well, right? She wasn't like, oh, this is beneath me. She had a smile on her face. She and little by little she'd help write something here or there. Oh, here, I put this together for you. She would kind of go out of the box of what she was tasked to do. And eventually people were like, you're really smart, and then they brought her up into a different division and gave her a full-time job. She started off part-time. And then from there, I mean, this was maybe 5 years ago. She now has 4 certifications in IT network securities, has a kick-ass job. She writes all the content for a super large billion-dollar corporation. And that came out of stocking soda. So you never know where things are going to lead. So you should always have that positive attitude and kind of work as hard as you can. And I do believe that many times you can make luck happen with that.
Absolutely.
So, well, thank you so much for coming on today. I always love our conversations, whether we're taping on Zoom for a podcast or just, chilling out, talking about mom stuff. So you're very wise and funny. So
wise and funny.
Wise and funny. You should put that as a tagline, right? Erica Lopez, wise and funny.
Erica Lopez, wise and funny.
If anyone wants to connect with you, how can they get a hold of you?
I am on social media at Positively Erica, and that's Instagram, Facebook, Erica Pagnucci Lopez, and my email is the same. We are also at Go Girl Communications, so you can find Go Girl on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and it's just Go Girl Communications with an S. You can read all about us and contact us there.
Awesome. And if you'd like to get a hold of me, you can find all of my information for Socket Plug Into You on our website at simplysocket.com, and my email, Cathy@simplysocket. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. And thanks again, Erica, for sharing some of your wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you, Cathy. Have a great day.
Thanks.